Chapter 5: A Changed Man.
Alicia put her arms around her husband and squeezed as tight as she could. At 5'2", she fit perfectly under Dresden's arm. "I miss her." Alicia stared at Sarah's spot at the kitchen table. "Me too. But at least she chose Western. She's only ever just 30 minutes away. She's a good kid and will have the time of her life. We gave her the best compass we could. She'll find her path." "Jackson's sandwich." He ran over and squeezed between them. Dresden's elbow knocked over the cup of coffee he had been nursing. Shoot." Jackson trailed off and looked at his father for approval. He reached out a closed fist, and it was met by Jackson's tiny hand. Dresden grabbed a few squares of paper towel and began wiping it up. But he did nothing more than move the puddle of coffee around. Alicia grabbed a fistful and sopped up all the liquid. She looked up to see Dresden trying to hold back a smile. "Jerk." She threw the pile of wet napkins at him, laughing. "You knew you didn't have enough paper towels." Dresden grabbed the remaining roll of paper towels and took over cleaning up his mess. He stared at the tattoo that covered the back of his right hand. A large 1% cascaded in a black diamond. The faded ink brought him back to when Alicia had rescued him from the depths of hell, and how she was the only one that ever made him feel loved. On September 17th, 2011, his demons had finally caught up to him, and that night would change both their paths forever. Dresden would never speak about what brought him to the Richmond Tavern in downtown London that night, but he was trying like hell to drink himself into endless sleep. Alicia, the only waitress in the bar, did everything she could to keep it together. She served everyone with a genuine smile. Her natural presence made everyone feel like they had known her forever. When she got to his table and had asked if he needed anything, he simply waved his empty bottle of OV and stared at the table. For some reason, she just stood there, pressing on his last nerve. He looked up with hateful anger, but couldn't force any words out of his mouth. For the first time he could remember, his eyes weren't met with fear. She had an innocence that intrigued him. She definitely wasn't from his world. He had spent his life in the shadows, a numb existence of darkness. Dresden made a living on others' misery. He collected on debts for people that don't send bills to your house. They would send Dresden. He was the wolf at the door no one ever wanted to see. An unknown man that was recognizable instantly. His icy cold blue eyes made the meanest of men tremble. Later that night, some poor drunk bastard had slapped Alicia for spilling his beer. Dresden emptied his bottle, walked over without a word, and beat him without mercy to within an inch of his life. The rage that unfolded in front of her was terrifying, but something inexplicably drew her to him. For reasons she could never explain, Alicia led him to the back door and told him to run. He didn't make it far before stumbling over his drunk feet and fell between two dumpsters. Alicia had led the police on a wild goose chase and directed them the opposite way down King Street. After her shift, she found him passed out and covered in blood. Against all better judgment, she invited him to her apartment to clean up. There was something about his eyes that stole her heart. All in one night, she had, for the first time in her life, lied to the police, invited a total stranger to her house, and cleaned the blood of another man from his hands. She washed his clothes while he slept in her daughter's bed. To this day, none of this would make any sense to either of them. Dresden had been used to waking up in a strange women's house, but never in a room filled with stuffed teddy bears and murals of dragonflies and dolphins. Confused, he stumbled out into her tiny living room and was handed a cup of coffee from what he could only figure was an angel. Her tender love and innocence made him uneasy, but her eyes were an open gateway to her soul, and he was changed instantly. He had found the only thing he had ever searched for, but wasn't even aware he was looking. He would pop by almost every night after Alicia's daughter Sarah would go to bed, and be gone before she woke on the weeks she wasn't at her dad's. That only lasted until that following April. Sarah's dad never showed up to pick her up from school one day. When the police found him, he had overdosed on fentanyl and drowned in his tub. Alicia needed support. Dresden never left her side from that day on. Alicia danced around the kitchen, pulling his attention back. Each ray of sun that beamed in through their kitchen window revealed a magical sparkle from her wavy light brown hair. She possessed an unmatched angelic beauty that was captivating and could change lives. Love exploded from her eyes like the sun bursting through the clouds. When she looked at him, he felt the embrace of angels around his soul. Dresden was locked in amazement with her presence. He understood how fortunate he was to be able to share this life with such an amazing woman, and how he owed everything to her. She truly was his angel and saving grace. He loved her fiercely. The tattoo that once told people to avoid him was now the very thing that would remind him of where she had saved him from, and how pure and powerful her love is. With a mouthful of chocolate chip pancakes, Jackson, laughing, asked, "Daddy, why you just staring at Mommy?" Alicia quickly locked eyes with her husband and silently mouthed, "I love you." Dresden, beaming with joy, pointed to his eye, then his nose in silent response. "You guys are weird." Jackson giggled as he got down from the table and headed back to the living room. "Looks like I will be heading to Montreal in the morning. Should be home Thursday afternoon. Maybe if I can get work wrapped up early Friday, we can head out to camp." Dresden asked while watching Jackson out of the corner of his eye. Jackson, who seemingly wasn't paying any attention to his parents in the kitchen, dropped his toy and came running in. "Can we leave now, Daddy? I'll grab my bug-a-bag and Teddy." "No bug-a-bag needed yet, dude. Mommy and I were talking about next weekend, and Mommy hasn't agreed to go yet." Father and son looked at Alicia like lost puppies. She playfully rolled her eyes. "Of course we'll go to camp, you goofballs. We have a ton to do to get the garden ready, but Daddy has to go away this week, and when he gets back, we'll go. Okay?" "Daddy always goes away, it's not fair," Jackson whined as he walked back into the living room. "I hate it when you leave too, Bubba. I get it, you have to. But being alone terrifies me."